Welcome back for another episode of Banging the Can, the Houston sports podcast that does not apologize for championship rings and tings. I am your host, Ross Bolen. And man, that there was a sports weekend. Drama-filled, chaos-filled, much unexpected drama, I might add. We have much to discuss. And of course, we will start with the most depressing of teams in our cursed city, the Houston Texans, whose 2-game winning streak came to an end in the Bay Area against the 49ers after a first half that was hard to watch, in which the Niners played terribly and we played like the Texans. I don't know, we weren't good. We scored 7 points. Davis Mills looks okay. And then in the second half, we got steamrolled. We lose 23-7. And, after, last week we discussed like we might actually have a running game after all. And then no. 189 yards as a team in the upset over the Chargers. 86 yards against the 49ers. Total. That's total. Not like one guy. That's not just Burkhead. Total. We had 86 yards rushing. Burkhead had 47 yards on 16 carries. That is not good. We are not a good running team. We're not a good team, period. I think we all know that, but it was kind of like a crash back to reality after the upset over the Chargers. Trey Lance looked solid, 16 of 23 for 249 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Obviously, the rookie quarterback for the Niners. Battle of rookie quarterbacks. I guess you could say he won. Nobody won. Nobody won this game. We all lost. Lance was the number 3 pick in last year's draft, by the way. Davis Mills, 21 of 32, 163 yards, touchdown, interception. Not one to remember for the neck. Here's a quote from the neck. I think I definitely got more experience today. Based on their defensive looks, I'll be able to anticipate their look from another defense. And frankly, that's really all we can ask of Davis Mills as we close out the really hopefully forgotten season where Deshaun Watson didn't even play because he had a masseuse problem. And Davis Mills, look, last week we said this is our guy. Last week on ESPN, even national coverage, they're saying Davis Mills has a shot at being the best quarterback in this rookie class. And I don't think this week, this performance against the Niners necessarily destroyed that chance. It's just like this wasn't it. He didn't come out and show us all what we wanted to see, which was another big step toward the future. Because the present, baby, it stinks. It stinks. John McClain, probably the most respected staff writer in Houston football history, period, including the Oilers, does his report card weekly that many of you are aware of. I hope you are, from the Houston Chronicle. And I thought his report card this week was particularly telling. Overall, grade, F. Quote, nobody expected the Texans to beat the Niners, but they didn't think the offense would be so wretched, embarrassingly so. He gave Davis Mills an F. He said he looked discombobulated against a ferocious 49ers defense. Horrendous second half. He gave the running backs a D, the receivers and tight ends a D, the offensive line an F, because our longest run was 8 yards. I think that's a fair grade, and Mills was pressured all game. Defensive line a C, linebackers C-, defensive backs D, special teams D, coaching D. Here's the only thing he said about the coaching. David Culley punted in the fourth quarter rather than go for a first down. Tim Kelly called too many odd running plays. McClain is the GOAT. If you're not aware of John McClain, you need to be aware of John McClain. Incredible Twitter follow. I feel like he's almost died 3 or 4 times during his tenure as staff writer at the Chronicle. Maybe that's inaccurate and perhaps a bit tasteless, but also the true story in my mind. John McClain, he's the man. His report card every week is incredible, and I have to agree with that on the whole. It was just overall a very forgettable game in a very forgettable season when we're all just hoping for the next bright spot, right? That's where we're at. Today's episode is brought to you by Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs, making the most comfortable shorts and pants in the entire world with the built-in underwear you know and love for living life and making love. It's like, why wear shorts with underwear when you can wear even better shorts with built-in underwear, thus creating less laundry, thus saving the planet, thus making you a hero who is better looking and more comfortable. Bird Dogs, baby. But did you know they make pants as well for these winter months? Pants for work, pants for play, pants for golf. And their new joggers are next level comfortable. I'm a joggers guy. I wear joggers constantly and have for years. I love them. They fit my body type or whatever. Bird Dogs joggers are amazing. Probably my favorite joggers ever. And what's more, for being a can banger, when you use the code BTC at checkout on birddogs.com, Bird Dogs is giving away free whistling footballs like the Nerf football you grew up with and loved. When you throw it through the air, it whistles. But it's a Bird Dogs whistling football with the Bird Dogs logo on it, and it's orange, and it's awesome. And I've got one right here in my hand. It is amazing. Birddogs.com, code BTC. Support the podcast. Get yourself a free whistling football with a pair of the most comfortable pants or shorts with the built-in underwear you know and love. Or if you don't want to be a rebel, you can get the underwear not built in. There is no underwear, is what I mean to say. You can get the pants and shorts without the built-in underwear. Jeez. In other hilarious NFL news, the Jacksonville Jaguars, who fired Urban Meyer a few weeks ago, are now looking for their next long-term head coach. They have a strange definition of long-term in Jacksonville. And it turns out one of the potential candidates is someone we are familiar with as Houston Texans fans from the Chronicle. I quote, as the Jacksonville Jaguars begin their search for a new head coach, several familiar names, including former Eagles coach Doug Peterson and Buccaneers offensive coordinator Byron Leftwich, have surfaced as candidates for the job. According to CBS Sports' Jason La Canfora, former Texans coach Bill O'Brien also could get an interview. O'Brien has spent the last year as the University of Alabama's offensive coordinator and will try to help the Crimson Tide win their second straight national championship when they play the Georgia Bulldogs in the title game on January 10th. You remember the butt chin. You remember Bill O'Brien. You saw him on national TV if you watched Bama play this weekend. Oh my God. The fact that anyone would even consider giving him an interview for a head coaching job in the NFL is completely insane, asinine, buffoonish. What? Why? Who? The dude is he's the OC for Saban. That's how bad. Have you seen the Texans? Are the Jags not paying attention at all? It's insulting to the rest of the guys you're interviewing to even bring in Bill O'Brien. Don't do it. The butt chin needs to stay with Saban. Just stay as Saban's stoolie. That's where he fits. That's where he excels. They're back in the Natty. They'll probably get another one. Just stay there, Bill. Don't come back to the NFL and give all the Texans fans PTSD from the horrid tenure you had here when you destroyed our franchise from the inside out, when you traded away the future of the fucking team for peanuts. Please, sir, we're just now getting over it and focusing on the current misery at hand. We need not your butt chin in our league. Stay away from the NFL, for the love of God. And why not close out with a really happy topic? The Houston Rockets, who, and I'm sorry it's funny to me, but we're suspending Kevin Porter Jr. and Christian Wood because in Monday's game against the 76ers, they will be suspended for tonight's game against the 76ers because in Saturday's loss to Denver, they freaked the fuck out during halftime. Apparently, John Lucas called out players for their performance. And Kevin Porter Jr. got into a full-blown confrontation with Lucas where he had to be held back. Apparently, was going to try to, fight him. And then he exited the arena at halftime. Sources are saying he literally left. He did not rejoin the team for the second half, and he instead went home. Not like he stayed in the locker room, not like he went and sat on the bench, not like he was in the stands. He left. He exited the arena. Okay? Christian Wood refused to play in the second half. When Silas tried to sub him in, Silas, excuse me, he ignored him. So Silas moved on. And then he never played him again. So I flip-flopped a little when I said last week that, maybe we would like to see Christian Wood develop next to Şengün. I changed my mind again. Yeah, just trade this guy. I think we're done here. And as far as Kevin Porter Jr. goes, see how the rest of the season goes. But after that, look, leaving the arena at the half, and I mean, we're going to talk about another guy in a few minutes, Antonio Brown. You don't do this. This is one of the great, cardinal sins of sports. To leave your team is not acceptable behavior as a teammate. And as a guy who's been given chance after chance and who this is his really, I mean, it's his last big opportunity to be taken seriously in the NBA, Kevin Porter Jr., and he's, trying to fight John Lucas, one of the more respected coaches in the league, and leaving the stadium at the half. I just don't see. Look, man, I can be a bit of a hothead. I've got a screw loose, bit of a nut. You can't. There's levels to this shit. You can't leave this stadium. You can't try to fight your coach. What are you, Latrell Sprewell? What is this? So neither of them play in the second half. We obviously lose. KPJ has well-documented issues. I mean, this is not good. He was having a good run. I mean, you haven't heard shit about him really in terms of making trouble, and now, not good. Wood is obviously our leading scorer and rebounder. 8 scoreless minutes in the first half. Houston was outscored by 17 points when Christian Wood was on the floor. So, yeah, he was part of the group that got told off at halftime. Isn't that how sports work? What's wrong with these guys? Just because once you're being paid millions of dollars, you're rich, doesn't mean sports work differently from a coaching player perspective. Like, and this is a young team with young guys, and Christian Wood is supposed to be a veteran leader, and apparently one of the other guys kind of called him out on that. A younger guy called Christian Wood out in the locker room, like, you're supposed to be setting the example, and that was part of the reason he, had a fucking fit. Or in response to him having a fit, I'm not sure. Regardless, yeah, whoever told him that needs to be our next leader. I hope it was Jalen Green, who is the bright spot on the team, who is back and has been scoring very effectively, efficiently, and impressively since his return. He looks amazing. Averaged 23.3 points since returning to the lineup. So we got that going for us. Şengün's going to be out a week, or 4 more days, I think, until they reevaluate him. In the meantime, more looks at Jalen Green. And tonight, a lot of looks at Jalen Green as KPJ and Christian Wood are both suspended for being jackasses. Apparently, according to the Athletics, Kelly Iko, Kevin Porter Jr. is apologetic for the overreaction. I would note, on a positive, to close out our Houston sports talk for the day before we move on to something on the national level, Orlando and Detroit are definitely worse than us, than the Rockets, which is nice. Okay, let's talk about Antonio Brown because we have to. Listen. He's been cut from the Buccaneers because he jogged off the field. You've all seen the clip at this point. If you're listening to a sports podcast, you're paying close enough attention to the sports world to see the Antonio Brown meltdown, I'm sure. But essentially, he's on the sidelines. Mike Evans and O.J. Howard try to calm him down. He's yelling at somebody, I'm not really sure who, but he's going nuts on the sidelines. He takes off his jersey and his shoulder pads, throws his glove into the stands. He's storming off. He takes off his shirt, his undershirt. He throws that into the stands. And then he's waving to the crowd like, I can't, bye or fuck you, one of the two, maybe both. And then he's gone. And the irony is that will probably do it for Antonio Brown in the NFL. I mean, we've said that like 7 times now, but seriously this time? But this time, seriously, I don't know how you come back from this. I mean, listen, this is Bruce Arians, when he was signed, quote, he screws up one time, he's gone. Okay, then he had accusations that he forged his vaccination card made by a personal chef who said Brown had not paid $10,000 he allegedly owed him. Okay, so just to recap that part, he has a personal chef who he hasn't paid, apparently, allegedly, $10,000. The personal chef rats him out because the personal chef made him a fake vaccination card. That's a story. What happened? He screws up one time, he's gone. That sounds like a screwed up thing. The NFL investigated and corroborated the accusation and suspended him 3 games. And now this. And the Bucs are a good time. I mean, they're favored to win the Super Bowl. This is, what? It's a miracle that this guy ever made it back onto this team. The fact that Tom Brady is so for him on the team shows you exactly how valuable he is as a football player and exactly how little Tom Brady cares about anybody outside of being a football player. Because, like, this point has been made time and time again, but I don't think anybody who wants the best for Antonio Brown at this point wants him on a football field. Because he's got mental health issues that he's acknowledged, on top of the fact that football is not good for your brain, on top of the fact that he clearly cannot stop further ruining what was once a great legacy as a receiver in the NFL. When they show highlights of this guy back in Pittsburgh, I mean, he was something else. I tweeted this, but one of my favorite moments in the history of sports, not just football, not just the NFL, was when he drop kicked that punter during his return. It was next level. I think it was a punter. It might have been the field or the kickoff guy. I think it was a punter though. Yeah, it was a punter. And he kicked him right in the fucking like head and shoulder. Just Google Antonio Brown kicks punter if you haven't seen it. It's amazing. I mean, he was in the conversation for potentially greatest receiver of all time. And then the last several years happened. And it's just been a nightmare. The guy can't stop screwing up. Here's a quote. A MetLife Stadium security officer told ESPN that they thought it was a fan who jumped onto the field when they were talking about Brown leaving with his shirt off. The officer also told ESPN that once inside the tunnel, Brown asked state troopers for a ride to the airport, but they were unable to fulfill his request, so he received alternate transportation to the airport and did not fly home with the team. Apparently, he waited on an Uber. A photo I saw on Twitter said, who knows if that's real, but would it shock anyone if it was? I mean, just a terrible end to a terrible the back half of his career. Really, for Antonio Brown. I want to note, the Texans completely fucked me in the ass this weekend. I had a 3-team parlay. Bengals plus 3.5. They won outright. Cardinals plus 6.5. They won outright. Texans plus 14. They did not cover. They did not cover. 2 of the 3. And I should have known. I did know, in fact, when I plugged it in. Oh, this is going to be the one that fucks me. Obvious. Texans. No brainer. And I was right. It's sad. We are on social media. If you have not followed us already, please do. You'll see clips of the show, announcements about new episodes, etc. At Banging the Can on TikTok, at Banging the Can on Twitter, at Banging the Can on Instagram. My name is Ross Bolen. Follow me on Instagram at WRBolen, at WRBOLEN. My first name is William. And on Twitter at WRBolen as well. I'm on Twitch often, gaming, playing Apex Legends, playing Halo Infinite. Twitch.tv/BossRollin. That's Ross Bolen with the B and the R reversed. Twitch.tv/BossRollin. Here at my small business in Austin, Texas, where we have 3 full-time employees, we have several good podcasts for you to enjoy. Not only do you have Banging the Can, the Houston Sports Podcast that does not apologize for championship rings and tings, but Oysters, Clams, and Cockles, our TV and film podcast. If you are into television and movies, the best shows and movies discussed weekly on Oysters, Clams, and Cockles. If you're an F1 fan, we have Formula Bone, at Formula Bone on all social media. Formula Bone F1 show, available wherever you listen to Banging the Can. The best Formula Bone podcast in the world, in my opinion, done by Jared Borslow, who is my co-host on our comedy show, the Ross Bolen Podcast, also brought to you by Bolen Media. Check out all of our different shows, the Ross Bolen Podcast, Formula Bone, Oysters, Clams, and Cockles. We appreciate you tell all of your Houston sports friends and family about Banging the Can and help us grow the show. You are in on the ground floor here. We're still very, very small. We only have like 1,000 listeners per episode right now, somewhere around there. It's just the beginning. We're pretty big on TikTok already, though. We have like 14,000 followers. It's pretty cool. So if you don't follow us on TikTok, at Banging the Can, please do. Tell everyone you know about the show. I appreciate you. I'll be back soon with more Houston sports talk. And until then, H-Town, stay down.